Hello, I'm Robert Moore, and if you're new here, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back. Tonight, or for this video, I thought I'd talk a little bit about part of my journey as an author, in particular on why I've chosen to self-publish over going the traditional route. Now, there is a lot of stigma still in the world today. It's beginning to loosen, beginning to change. About self-publishing because people think it's not professional or, you couldn't hack it to get a traditional deal, things like this, or you just gave up. And I will admit there's a little truth to that last, but I had my reasons for wanting to do it. And there are fairly strong reasons, honestly, when you get right down to it. So to that end, why have I chosen self-publishing? One was my experience. One reason that pushed me in that direction was my experience with other authors I know. I'm in two writing groups, and in both of them there are self-published authors who have had reasonably good success with that. So I figured, why not? I mean, it's not like it can't be done. Number two was my experience with more traditional ways of publishing, in that I was participated in a student-run literary magazine at the university I work at, because I'm also a student. I'm taking some classes. And so I volunteered for essentially their acquisitions, their reading boards. And what I found is that it's a misnomer to say that this process of getting an agent and getting traditionally published is a subjective process. It's ridiculously subjective. Honestly, it's not about hitting the right person at the right time. It's about hitting the right person at the right day, on the right day, at the right moment in that day. It's that subjective. So, no offense to anybody doing this for a living, but if I'm having to wait and hope that you're, sitting there and seeing my work at the right time on the right day, sorry, I'm not going to wait around for that. That is asking too much. So there it is. The other big reason, to be honest, is I hate marketing. Yep, you heard that right. That's a reason for me to go self-publishing. I hate marketing. So why is that a big deal? Well, as it turns out, was doing my due diligence and research into things, and found out that in today's world, the traditional publishers do not do much marketing, if any, for you. So the bottom line is if I'm going to have to be doing the marketing anyway, well, bluntly, what am I paying them for? Why do they get to take 85 to 90% of the royalties of the income from my book, when I'm still having to do the parts that I hate? You see, I don't mind having to look up and find my own editor. In fact, I prefer that. I know it's somebody I can trust then. I don't mind having to look up cover artists to design a cover for me. I don't mind the writing, that's for sure. It's a little tedious at times, but, what isn't? But all those parts are great, got no problem with that. But you're going to make me market anyway, and then I still claim 85 to 90% of the revenue? Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. I'm doing what I consider to be the onerous work. And so some throw out, yeah, but they're taking all the risks. I'm not buying that either. Sorry. No, they're not. So there we go. And other things that are involved in the decision. There's nowadays with print on demand services, there's no real need to worry about keeping lots of stock, lots of inventory on hand. So with that not overhead, yeah. Other things, I had a long conversation with the owner of a mid-list publisher, so a publisher, and after just a few minutes, he held up his hands and was like, "Look, you seem to know what you're doing. You are talking the talk." And was flat out, there's really nothing I could do for you. You know you have to do the marketing. You know you have to do these things. You know you there's nothing I can do for you, and I'm going to take your money. So these are reasons to do self-publishing. If you're going to have to market, you're going to have to handle all the business dealings anyway. Um, all that's really left to do is for you to pick your editor, your cover designer, and things like that. Well, shoot, heck yeah, I'm already doing most of that anyway. So other things that came up, in addition, minor little details that just kind of were icing on the cake that pushed me in that direction even further. Was with self-publishing, I get to choose the timeline for my publication. Since I decided to publish my first book, Not Mortal.exe, it's been less than a year on getting everything together, getting the editing done and everything, and it should be done by about the end of September. I've got my second round of edits back from my editor. So there may be one more round, and then it's off to a book formatter, and there we have it. The bottom line is I could learn all these skills and not have to have a third person involved at all. But even with them, the bottom line is I'm going to go from I finished the book, I finished my drafting. Here it's in the hands of an editor, and in less than 6 months, I can have it out there. I control the timeline. I got to choose my cover. It's a cover that I like, that I think is good, not some marketing team. I got to choose my editor. My editor is a lovely lady, and she really works with me. She's listened to my feedback. I've listened to hers. It's been a wonderful experience. I've got no problems, no complaints at all. So I got to choose my editor instead of having one thrown at me. I will get to choose that formatting. I will get to choose the size of the book, the format, the fonts, everything about it. Everything about the book's design, I get to decide. Again, it's not some marketing team or something like that. And then there's the fact that I felt that this book was actually the first part of a trilogy. And the thing about a traditional contract is if you have a series that you want to do, if your first book doesn't sell, you're done. That's right. They're not going to pick up book 2 if book 1 doesn't sell. They're not going to pick up book 3 if book 2 didn't sell. And so a lot of people go, well, I'll just put that one out myself then. No, you signed a contract. That contract for a certain period of time means they own any publication in that world with those characters, all of it. You cannot self-publish it. They have the rights to it, and they're not choosing to exercise those rights, so you are stuck. So if you're planning on writing a series and something like that, you probably really want to check into self-publishing, because you can find yourself stuck. They're not going to do anything with it. You can't do anything with it unless you buy back your rights. So keep that in mind if you're planning on publishing and thinking about going traditional. So that was it. That was what pushed me to decide. So what did not play into my decision? Well, we've kind of mentioned it, kind of gone through it. At no point did I get just so discouraged. Oh, I'm being rejected. I'll just do it myself. No. And to be perfectly honest, if I had done it for that reason, decided that for that reason, that's a perfectly legitimate reason too. Okay? Do not get me wrong in the least little bit. Rejections are hard. I've got 24 of them. Actually, I think it's 26. So I've walked that road. Each one of them hit me hard enough that insomnia has me, when I call up, they're like, "Hey, Rob, how are you doing?" So, each rejection, even when you know it's coming, is hard. So that's actually a legitimate reason to, but it was not my reason. It was not in my reasoning. My writing isn't good enough. Well, that remains to be seen. We'll find out come September and for about a year afterwards, right? But all my beta readers seem to be happy with my work. All of my editor seems to be happy and think great things about my work. So, no, sorry, my writing isn't that weak, apparently. It may prove to be, but we'll see, right? That's what it's all about. So these are things that did not play into it. The things that did were predominantly that I got an inside look at how traditional publishing works. I talked with some of the people involved. I listened to other people who were involved, because there's a lot of videos out there about self-publishing and traditional publishing, and videos from publishers that you can watch. So in the end, yeah, and I'll throw this out there as a final little thing. This video has gotten longer than I intended, but as a final little point, keep this in mind too. Even the big five, when they were pushed to it in a court case not too long ago, admitted that the average book out there sells under 100 copies. That's with them. Sells less than 100 copies. Well, you know what? I'm going to go on a limb here and say, I think I can sell 100 copies of my book. So doing it myself, I'm still going to be out better, or at least as good as the average book done through them. So anybody that might be in a traditional publisher that's out there, I'm not meaning to be offensive to you, but when all of these factors came out and I started finding out about them, no, I'm not going to go traditional route, and I see no future where I will choose to do so. So those are my reasons. I don't know what your mileage may vary. There is something to be said for, I've got a publishing contract. So, do what you need to do. Do what's best for you. But for me, it seems that this is the best way to handle things. So that's the way I'm doing them. And in the end, that's really the reason to do things a certain way. It's because it feels right for you. Anyway, I'm going to close this one down. I hope you got some information out of it, or at least some insight into the mad, twisted head of Robert Moore. And I hope you'll come back for the next one. For now, though, have a good day. I hope it's a great one for you. Have a good one.